And as long as there's no gross mistake in what, like if they don't think that they're talking about these people over here, but they realize that they're talking about these people, then that's fine, I think. As long as they get the basic gist of it. Or like if they start to try to bring up weird things like, SAP getting the people or something, flipping ideas around like that, then you try to correct them on that. It's important that they understand that, and it also puts the responsibility on how we present examples, is that usually when we're talking or when we're reading, they need to understand that we're not going to say crazy things. And it sounds kind of like common sense, but I think initially kids will just think, I have no idea what you're saying, But if they can if you can reassure them that you're not going to be telling them things that are insane, then they're going to be able to use their natural skills to be able to figure out what's going on. Whereas if they don't really believe that at first and think that this is just weirdness, then it's going to be harder for them. And then, let's see. Okay, and then for just to sort of continue past the way the rest of this was organized, well, like the reading orientation, like I said, you teach the initial 5 sounds. And for that I use worksheets from nesenglish.com. Yeah, these are I got these for free from nesenglish.com. I think that's also listed in your handout there, the website, after the references. And these are really nice for just introducing the sounds, because the initial 5 sounds is just drilling. There's nothing else you can do. So basically, we teach them the sound ah. This is ah. Or if they already know that that's called A, then I would say A has a sound. Its name is A, but it says ah, And then basically the drill is you say the word, and then if it's the ah sound, then you write the A. If not, then X. So I'd say apple, cookie is an X. And then you go through and complete that. That's one activity I do. Once they've got some sounds, I might use like flashcards, cards like these. I'll go ahead and pass these around here. I'll look at those. Basically, once you get like a certain number of letters, you can start using these cards for karata type things, and then they have to really pay attention to the letters when you say the word, because they're not conventional karata type, and they have to really. And it also helps them reinforce the meaning connection too, because it's got the pictures on there too. And then, like I said, the cat under table example would be something like this. Have the main teach them the difference between their words with content and words with structure. But they just need to try to fill that in themselves. Now, for the SPHERIC system, the standard unit design after the orientation would be the first class you just introduce new grammar in a communicative context. Like, let's say you're just teaching can and cannot, or you're teaching maybe the is can be used in sort of like an equal sign in talking about two different things, comparing two things, or whatever grammatical thing is going to be introduced in the next book. You teach that first, doing communicative activities. Then you introduce a new phonic. Let's see, how much time do we have? 20 minutes. Okay, good. I think we're fine. Okay. Yeah. So you introduce a new phonic, and then you have in the intervening classes, you would use about half the time, I think, to practice the grammar, practice the new concept that you have that's being worked on in the books. Maybe learn some new vocabulary. The rest of the time you use to work through the reader. So that each class they get a little bit of study time, a little bit of sort of play, interactive time at the same thing, and then move through there. In the final class, like I said, you move through all together, trying to get them to express the meaning of the story. And then maybe wrap it up with like a review game or an assessment of, assessments I don't think need to be like tests. They should be like in a game or a communicative activity, but you might have like a note clipboard and mark. It's like, oh, they got that. They didn't get that. So you can check and monitor how they're advancing through the program. And yeah, these are just you just move through the books like this. Like for instance, here the first one would be can and are the grammatical type of things that we want to teach. And then you start out with 5 letters. And then you move on, like here it's like I am and on and in, those kind of words would come into play, and then you teach the M sound, and then you move on to the S sound, and maybe teach the and get. And that would be it. So each unit sort of moves slowly through. It can move as fast or as slow as you want, but as fast or as slow as the kids can do. A lot of that change depends on how much time you have, but you can just move gradually through a simple grammatical unit through each page, and you can get to a fairly complicated level in relatively quickly. Now, I'm going to try to think of activities and materials to use in class. I try to make sure they're skill focused. Like I try to think of which skills they're using and which skills the children need to work on, and try to make them as targeted as possible on a certain area. And that would be like those critical skills I was talking about earlier. It's also important to have variety. Of course, with young children, they can do the same thing many, many times, and you can just do it to death, and they'll love it. But with kids from about third, fourth grade on, then they need to have a variety of activities and games to keep them engaged. It should be incremental. So like I said, it needs to have a logical sequence that builds off of each other. Otherwise, children will turn off, or they'll get confused, or it'll affect their confidence. So if it builds slowly, then it's easier for them to understand and make their own. It needs to be consistent. So like as they're going through the program, there shouldn't be too much changing of direction or duplication of content. It needs to, like, if they're going through like a 1st through 6th grade program, they need to make sure that each year they're continuing with the program from where they left off. I think that's important. And it should be appropriate, like I said, choosing vocabulary that's good, like prototypes, simple words like table, desks, complete sets of words together in context. It doesn't help a child to know red but not to know blue, for instance. They need to have the full set of a group in there. And if you teach things in groups, then it's also easier for them to understand categories and categorizing later, because they know, oh, colors, we've been doing all these colors. It's one kind of thing. Images are powerful, but you need to use them carefully and use them well. Like the example with the fox. If you have a beautiful picture and it's got just too much verbiage under it, too many words under it, then it's going to be hard to understand. But if it's clear and close to a distinct relationship, then it's easier. And finally, the activities should be engaging. Listen to the children. The children will let you know instantly if this activity or game or whatever you're doing with them is fun, or if it's just terribly boring. And I think above all else, the main thing is to remember the end goal is eventual communicative independence. Whatever activities we use, whatever sequence of phonics we use, whatever, the goal is to get them to be able to read and enjoy language for themselves outside of the classroom. And I think that this method provides them some of the tools for doing so. And everything we do should be geared towards that, I think. Thank you very much for listening. Here's my email address. If you want any further materials or anything, please let me know. Thank you very much.